for the Art of Teaching Music 1 class, and I am a music education major here at Westminster Choir College, and I'm about to tell you a little bit about my music career and how it developed. So my vocal music career started kind of late, I'd say. I've always been creative and artistic though. Visual art was my first talent, and I've utilized that skill throughout my life. From the time I could hold a pencil, I began to write and illustrate my own series of books when I was little. Art, drawing in particular, became one of my favorite pastimes, and as I kept growing in that art, I began to strive for excellence in my just beginning musical career as well. I really wanted to be well-rounded in all of the arts. So in middle school, it was required that everybody played an instrument, and I chose the violin. And this was really the beginning of where my musical ability really began to develop. I am a firm believer that art, music, dance are all forms of creativity and expression, and I think they all can play off of one of each other. So I think that my art helped me be more expressive in my musicality. Anyway, about my violin experience, I had an excellent teacher. Her name was Becky Green. She was fantastic. She was both my middle school and high school orchestra director. And with her guidance, I was able to participate in all-county orchestra all throughout middle school and high school. And I even became my section leader for the violins in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So while I was developing my orchestral and artistic skills at school, my favorite leisure activities outside of school were playing guitar and singing. So I was a member of 2 bands during high school, one being a praise band at church and another being a group of friends and I. I played multiple instruments for each, but being a vocalist was always my main niche, I'd say. This led me to want to try out for the school talent show in 10th grade. So my friend and I auditioned, and we ended up making the talent show, and we went back the next year and the next year. So I was in the school talent show for 3 years, and my goodness, I just had the best time performing in front of such a big crowd full of my peers. It was such a rush. It was so exhilarating. And so our first song that we sang together in my 10th grade year was Wagon Wheel by Old Crow Medicine Show. And we even took that song to a summer conference, and we played it for over 1,000 people. And I was just, it was so exciting for me at that age. And all of my participation in these vocal activities in the bands and the talent show, and then also just with my artistic interests in violin and visual art, it got the attention of my friend Madison Wiseman, who eventually talked me into auditioning for my school's concert choir. He thought that I would just be a good fit, and to be quite honest, his convincing changed my life. Being in concert choir changed my life, because once I got in and began to experience what it was like to sing with a choir and to sing choral music for the first time, there hasn't been a turning back since. I fell in love with singing classical music because I hadn't been exposed to it beforehand. I was always singing pop music. And it turns out I felt so much more comfortable singing in that style than I ever had singing pop tunes. It felt more natural. The first song that I sang in a more classical style in a solo was Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again from Phantom of the Opera. I sang this song at our end-of-year concert, and I had the solo, and I was so excited, and my grandmother was in the audience, who is and has been a musician, pianist, and organist all of her life, and she just, when she heard me sing, she cried because she felt so proud that I had a voice like that she had never heard. And from then, she took me under her wing and became my accompanist. And she would pick out songs for me to perform in church, and I would just go over to her house and we'd just sing for fun, and I just fell in love with singing in that style. And then in 2014, college started for me. I began at University of North Carolina at Asheville, where the change of environment really got to me. It led to intense isolation and consequently no singing, no music, no art, no, no, no art. Like, just no joy. I cut myself off from all these forms of release for me, and I went from being so involved in all things musical, like orchestra, choir, church, bands, to nothing. I went from that to nothing. And so then I transferred to High Point University in 2015 because I was unhappy. And there my health began to deteriorate and I was getting more and more sick. But while I was there, I was in the women's choir, which I enjoyed so much. No matter how unwell I felt or how stressed out I was, going to women's choir 3 times a week was just so relieving, so peaceful, so enjoyable. I'm so glad that I got to be a part of the women's choir for the short time that I was at High Point University. And I eventually had to take a medical leave from school for all of the year of 2016 and into the year 2017 in order to go through treatment. And I had to move to Denver, Colorado, Raleigh, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., back to Denver, Colorado. And that year and a half was the darkest and most torturous time of my life. But the one thing that kept me going in all that darkness and all that sickness was music. All I ever thought about was getting well and going home to sing with my grandmother again. When I did get to go home earlier this year, she and I began working on O Mio Babino Caro. And because it was the song we started working on as soon as I got home, it kind of became a piece that meant so much to me. Every single time I sing it, feelings of relief and release overtake me, and they transport me back to the comfort of her music room. And it's just such a beautiful piece, and it still means so much to me, and I will never be tired of singing it. Another goal of mine, other than getting back home to sing with my grandmother, another goal of mine was to eventually go back to school again, because I was out of school for a long time. And over the course of my time spent in those hospitals and treatment centers and in therapy, I realized and learned a lot about myself. I realized that music was always a savior for me. I was so scared before I went through all of that. I was so scared to pursue music as a career. It just seemed unsafe. It seemed scary to me. But after going through all of that, I realized that music was always tied with joy, belonging, solace, comfort. And, therefore I began speaking with Brittany McCollum, my church choir director, about her start in music and where I should look into for schooling. And she was a Westminster alumni. And she had often helped me choose pieces to sing in church, and she's pretty close in age to me, and we got along really well, so I really trusted what she had to say. And she told me all about Westminster, and it sounded amazing. It sounded too good to be true. I have so much to learn, and Westminster had so much to offer. And so I did my research, and I am just so grateful every single day when I wake up here. I am so grateful. I am in such a better condition health-wise than I was these past 2 years, and I'm just beyond thankful to be in a place where music is everywhere, because music is healing. Music is beauty. I can't even describe the joy music brings to me. And I know it's going to be a tough ride here at Westminster, because this is a tough school. But music legitimately saved my life, and I want to be a music educator so that I can show young people that no matter what is going on in their lives, music can always be a cure. Music can always help. Music saves lives, and I know that for a fact because it saved mine.